And we're back again, another episode of Grappling Dad's podcast. And guess who we got today?
Evidently not me.
Not you.
The hell, man?
Not you. We have Chad Pomeroy on the show.
Yo, yo.
And his friend. I forgot his name.
Yeah.
Some average black
Long-time
belt.
companion.
He's not too important.
He's probably just going to be in the background for most of the time. He's just in the area. So, all right. I guess we'll have you.
We're like, hey, we need Paul. We need Chad on. He's like, I got to bring this special friend of mine.
Yeah.
It's got to come on.
Say hi, Kroyler.
Hey, I'm just the average black belt. So I'm not really sure what I'm doing here.
Yeah, he's not that important. It's cool.
So here's how it's going to go. You're going to talk for an hour, and we're just going to listen, and we're going to play that shit back. That's how it's going to go.
I'm just going to go with that. Sounds like a shitty show. Oh, my gosh. I'm getting all nervous because we have other people like watching us.
We have like a whole studio audience right there. They're taking pictures and stuff right now.
And Chad's wife is wicked judgmental.
She is.
Like horribly.
It's crazy.
I've seen her put people to sleep.
Oh, yeah, me too.
Hell yes.
Victor's not here.
Victor's not here,
going home. She put Victor to sleep at Kroyler's wedding.
He's
Are
like,
you serious?
Yeah,
oh, yeah.
That's awesome.
And mind you, he's a brown belt, almost a black belt, and he's like, you can't choke me.
Oh, yeah.
So she like chokes him, and then he just went out.
Wow.
Yeah, she had a skirt on too.
Yeah.
Oh,
Skirt.
Yeah.
looking good and choking people out.
There's no video of this.
No, sadly,
Oh,
no.
you had one job.
It's my wedding. My one job was to say yes.
Yeah.
No,
Right.
I'm coming back with, if it's entertaining, you have one job. You catch that shit.
I should have recorded it.
That's how you get famous. You record stuff like that.
I'll keep that in mind.
Oh, nice.
That was funny, though.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Not surprising, though. I've watched her roll. She avoided me. She was like, oh, that dude looks creepy as shit.
She just didn't want to hurt you.
Yeah, I mean,
That's pretty easy to do, though.
I mean, if she just like slightly brushes against your face, we're gonna have deep issues. So she's just avoiding the whole awkward situation.
Did she just brush his face? Oh, he broke his ocular bone. Shit.
Yeah. Yeah, you just didn't get so fussy. It wouldn't happen, but
Yeah.
I would
Yeah,
say
well.
I'm a little girl, but that's not not the right way to say
that's
that.
not
Oh, well,
appropriate.
yeah, I'm a little bit. I'm a little girl.
Oh, boy.
yeah. All right, let's
shit.
get the party started. Let's see. I have a list of questions, and I'm going to read them like an asshole.
See how he caught that before I could actually point that out? 'Cause
right,
I'm like, hey, dude,
right.
why don't you just ask him off the cuff? No, I have a list.
That's not how I work.
It's going to go rattle them off back to back. So
Yeah. So we're going to read you 10 questions.
Well, I can do it
you
off
need
the
to
cuff.
answer them all in sequential order.
Perfect. So, I mean, we're 3 minutes in. How much longer is this going on?
Asshole. The only thing is this asshole's gonna. I know what he's gonna do. Every like 3 minutes, he'll be like, "So we're like 6 minutes in."
Yeah. When is
And
this
if you
gonna
want to
get
know
done?
what's happening, I will tell you again in about 3 minutes.
Every 30 minutes. I'm still bored. It's been 6 minutes now.
Have you asked a good question? It's at 12 minutes 3 seconds.
So clearly, growing up, in your family lineage, it was easier for you to get a black belt than anybody else just because of your name.
They just give those shit from birth, right?
Can you speak to that at all?
Yeah. No. So I don't think it was easier. I think if anything, it might have been harder. There's a lot of pressure when you're a Gracie. Even being, as a small kid, you're competing, or even in class, you feel like you need to like represent, and you don't even know what you're representing yet. You're just supposed to represent. You're a Gracie. Right. Everybody's like, "Oh, you're a Gracie. You gotta do good."
Yeah, you must never lose.
Right.
Much
right.
like when people go, "Oh, you're Kip. You're supposed to suck." Like, exactly.
See, we relate. We get it.
Yeah, exactly. We're on the same level of something.
Right. Yeah. So for a while, I just had fun as a kid, and there was a period where I didn't necessarily like training too much. I was 10, 11, 12. It just lost its fun. I guess the pressure got to me, but I still trained. I never stopped training, but it just wasn't enjoyable. And then I turned 12, 13, and then it became fun again. And I'm not sure what the difference was. It might have just been me getting a little older. And I chased the belts. Like, I wanted a black belt, right?
Okay.
And I was a blue belt for like 6 years. Like, my blue belt torn like in half twice, and like
white belt.
I just had it stitched and reused the same belt, and it tore again. So it was twice that happened, and then by the time I was good enough, to test to get my purple belt to be promoted to purple belt, I just didn't care about the belts anymore.
How old was that?
I was 16.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, you're at the rebellious stage.
You're 16 when you got your purple?
Yeah, 16 on my purple, yeah.
How's that
And
make
then,
you feel, Chad? Make you feel good?
When I got my purple belt, I was 28, I think, something like that. 29.
It's comparable.
Yeah, I mean,
totally comparable.
Yeah.
I'm gonna get my purple
Actually, I
belt.
think I was 30.
Yeah, I was almost.
Oh, shit.
I was almost 17 when I got my purple belt.
Oh,
but
he
yeah.
gave you a year.
I gave you like
Nice of him.
a couple, like 11 months.
Yeah, that's nice of you.
Yeah.
I didn't
I'll
come
be
out
a
of the
purple
bullied
belt in
grappling, so.
2042.
I didn't know jiu-jitsu existed when I
dead.
was 16, so there's that.
Oh my
So,
gosh.
Was it like a forced on you to train? Like this is just what you're going to do, or is it something you wanted to do and then kind of fell out of?
Well, I mean, when I was a kid,
Yeah.
no, when I was a kid, it was just you just did. I mean, it was just like,
That's what we do here.
yeah, I mean, like
Gotcha.
when kids nowadays are playing on their iPad. For me, it was you're gonna put your gi on and
Right.
go roll around, and I had so many cousins. I had so many opportunities to train with different people, and it was never like, oh, this is something I have to do. It was just something I did. It was
Nice.
just, part of who I was. who
That's
I am.
interesting. Yeah, because I talk because it's part of who I am. Not
You
intelligent.
shouldn't.
Paul fussies about things because that's who he is. Kroyler does a wonderful art.
Yeah.
I just feel like shit.
Yeah.
That's all I'm saying.
We have nothing going for us.
Nope.
You got this podcast, right?
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Tens of people
Yeah.
listen.
We
Yeah.
tricked you to
Excited.
come on this shit, so
You
we're
did,
going
yeah.
somewhere.
You
Yeah.
lured him with candy.
Yeah. Candy. Where's the candy, by the way?
Oh, I got candy for you. I got candy. We got to get through the podcast first. You
Oh,
don't just
okay.
get the candy.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. You have to be entertaining.
Oh,
So far, you're failing.
It's a treat system that we
Oh.
actually function on here for our guests.
It's a reward system.
Yes.
Gotcha.
That's right.
Gotcha.
That's right.
Okay.
No, treat.
I don't know if I'm
Treat
actually going to say anything
Treat.
or just if I'm going to be able to not stop laughing. I can't even get into it. I can't stop laughing.
I mean, anytime Tip speaks, you can just kind of cut him off.
Yeah, you can just. Yeah, that's what I do. That's
Yeah,
my
I was
go-to.
going to say,
Yeah.
I'm really good at getting cut off by
He's in
this
striking
asshole.
distance, too, so he's close.
Yeah. You just.
Yeah,
Oh,
we were-
and he's
we were-
touching me.
We were practicing that pasao. We were practicing that pasao earlier.
Yeah. He
Nice
likes.
there.
Yeah, he likes that footsie game, right? He keeps talking about it in the
He's a
podcast.
fan. Yeah.
Yeah.
He's in range.
How do you hide behind a microphone?
Yeah, you can't. There's no hiding.
No, you don't. It sucks.
So growing up in the Gracie family, do jiu-jitsu. Did you ever get? I'm going to say air quotes bullied in school. Like, did people try to test you all the time, or did people just get it?
I'm a pretty laid back guy. I've always been pretty laid back. Easygoing, and I've always been a big dude, so that kind of always helped the bullying scene.
True.
If you're big and you're like level-headed, people tend to be friends with you, and they don't tend to pick on you too much. No, I was never bullied. Don't get me wrong. I mean, doesn't mean that every aspect of growing up is wonderful. Nobody's entire childhood is perfect, but I could never pinpoint any time in my life where I was like, I was bullied here.
Right.
Like that was never the case. I've never been afraid to stand up for myself, should something need to. But no, I've never been bullied.
That's cool. Yeah, I was the exact
Are you
opposite.
sure, though?
I can't think of a time in my life where I wasn't bullied.
The basketball story is still my favorite. Anyways, are you sure, though? Because that hat and the bow tie, was it?
Oh.
In that picture?
Oh.
Like, who the hell's not picking on you?
I was trying to.
So the thing is like I went to growing up. I went to prep school, so it was like a prep academy, and everybody was like uniforms every day. We did etiquette, we did like theology studies, we did like philosophy studies. I mean, we covered a wide range of topics, and so
Clive's awesome. He brought the picture up.
Yes. So everybody wore uniforms. There was no like, that was the uniform. That's what you wore.
Oh, so
And
everybody's wearing that.
Yeah.
Oh, well, that doesn't make it as much fun.
The hat?
Yeah. Everything. The whole outfit.
Really?
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah.
I'm sorry.
No, I'm not. I mean, I like the idea.
Oh, no. You should be.
Oh. See, I'm not embarrassed about my life.
Yeah. Oh, I am.
Oh, I'm a walking embarrassment. You shitting me?
Yeah, everything you're saying is so foreign to me. I'm not gonna lie. It's like, wow, it's
My favorite part
I
is
get
that
that.
everything's a cut, namely on one of the two of us. But it doesn't sound like it.
Yeah.
Like, oh, he's so nice. I feel shitty inside.
So do you have a favorite training partner growing up? Like somebody that just really helped your game?
Well, when I was 16, actually, Jeff Howe started training with me, and he's one of the black belts at my school. up until then, I had people that, and you got to keep in mind, like growing up, when I started like really loving jiu-jitsu when I was 12, 13, I became a little bit of a douchebag, you know.
Like Kip.
Sure.
I don't know if that's good. Could get that bad, but
yeah.
You know.
Yeah, I was gonna say
I have
that's
my
a
own
little
level.
much, you know, but no. So I started teaching very young. You know,
Okay.
12, 13. I started teaching classes, and then I shouldn't have been. You know, honestly, nobody that young should be teaching anything. But what I used to do as an example, like at the end of class, I would line up all the students, right, and nobody would roll. So like line up everybody. We have like 10 minutes on the clock. I was like, all right, so I'm gonna get 10 taps on everybody.
Oh yeah, that's definitely
We got
douchey.
we got 10 minutes, and I would make it happen. I'd get up to 100 taps in 10 minutes.
Wow.
And,
Well, I'm sure you would.
well, but I wasn't. But they weren't pretty taps. They weren't even good taps. They were embarrassing taps. You know, I would force things that aren't there. I would make people tap just because it hurts, not
You
because
probably
it's
used those
effective.
damn wrist locks, didn't you, cheater?
So it wasn't until, like I said, like well into my 15, 16 years of age, that I started cooling off. You know, I met Stembowski, who's the guy that I mainly train under. Changed my perspective on jiu-jitsu a little bit, but it was also the introduction of Jeff Howe, who he kind of committed. He was like, I'm an addict when it comes to jiu-jitsu. Like, that's like my addiction. I think about it. I write about it. I, you know, teach it all the time. I think, it's who I am.
Right.
And
Ultimate jiu-jitsu nerd. It's awesome.
right. And he kind of came in. He came into school one day, and he's like, hey, you know, I want to pay for the class, and I want to try it out. And he was like a 27-year like wrestler for Purdue. I mean, like,
oh, wow.
incredible wrestler. And he picked up right away, but he immediately was doing like 3 to 5 private classes a week. He was there every group class. He never missed. We would, for a long time, come in at like 5 a.m, come in and train so he could go to work. And then after work, we would do it again.
Wow.
And
Dang.
when he committed that much to training himself, I was like, man, like, that's a great training partner to have. Like, somebody who's not going to bail, who's not going to quit, who's not going to whine, who's not going to be, you know, just a limp noodle when you're trying to drill techniques, who's actually going to work with you. And his introduction, like our relationship through jiu-jitsu, like as we started training more and more together, within a few months we were training together every day.
Nice.
And
Wow.
that level of commitment is probably one of the main reasons that I've achieved the levels that I've achieved. One, because he brought a different flavor to my jiu-jitsu. He brought the wrestling into jiu-jitsu that I never had. But also he brought in the, you know, he's a very intelligent guy. So him and I would troubleshoot things. So I would try, like, we would spend months doing something silly. Like, we would go to half guard, and then we would say, all right, so last week you caught me in a kimura, and how do I beat it? And we would start with a kimura setup, and then you had to find a way out.
Oh, wow.
And then we would do that for weeks. And then once I figured one that would work, you know, vast majority of the time, then we would switch spots and see if it would work for him. And then if it did, wonderful. If it didn't, we tweaked it.
Wow.
So you did a lot of experimentation.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, jiu-jitsu is not in its absolute form yet. It's still growing. Jiu-jitsu is only like 100 years old, right? If you think about it.
Yeah.
So
Well,
pretty young.
martial arts, that's an infant.
that's nothing.
Yeah.
So, and then we did that for months. Like, we would spend months in nothing but like kimura from half. Like, we just go back and forth. You know, I got this defense, then we have this counter, and then this defense for that counter, and then this counter for that counter from this counter, and we would go on forever. And we did that for years and years and years, and we've been doing that for 12 years now.
Oh, cool.
Wow.
So he was able to kind of push me to that. Maybe not. And he was able to push me to the next level by making me commit to him and to our training, as much as he was committing to me in my training.
Okay.
So he's probably my favorite training partner.
Okay. I'm not sure how to ask this or say this, but when you have a training partner, how should you ramp if you're learning a new move? How much resistance should you give when you're learning? So I get not being a limp noodle, but how should you ramp that process
Do you
up?
get being not a limp noodle?
No, I suck at
that's
that.
pretty much what the hell you do.
Yeah, I'm learning. I'm a blue belt, bro.
You're learning to lay down like a kitten until somebody does something, because it's quite annoying.
I'm asking this for me.
Okay, good call.
Well, it depends. There's several stages to training, right? So if you're learning a technique, like this is the first time you've been exposed to it, you should be able to go through the entire motion of the technique without any major resistance, because any resistance that early on is going to affect your performance. You're going to overcompensate sloppiness with athleticism. So once you get the technique down and mechanically you understand it and you can pull it off, again, just mechanically, once you can do that, then your opponent can start resisting a little, right? And he can maybe just become a little bit stiffer, a little bit stronger, resist a little bit more, and then you can take it to the next level where now your opponent is actually trying to react to that motion. So you do the technique, and they're trying to beat it as it's happening.
Okay. And
then you work that level until you get to the point where your training partner is now resisting the technique before it's even set up, right? And then, but that takes one time. You really have to give yourself time to go through all the stages and not rush them. And you have to have a training partner that's willing to work with you instead of just beating you. You know, because some people are like, oh yeah, I'll drill with you, and then you're like, oh, give me some resistance. And they're trying to beat you for the sake of beating you, not for the sake of improvement.
I don't know anyone that does that.
Talking about me again?
No.
How dare you?
Not at all. I tried to do anything. Paul tries to murder me.
Yeah. It's because it's you, Kip.
And I'm bad at this.
To be fair, wouldn't anybody try to murder you?
I mean, look at me.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I have a question for Chad because I think he fell asleep.
Yeah, he's all bored over there.
It won't be a question for you, but you may be involved. Oh. So we've heard Chad's version of how you guys met and got along quite quickly. Mm-hmm. What's yours?
Of how we met? So it was kind of interesting. I was actually in my school, and I got this call from this guy, and he was like, hey, I want to come down and check your place out, and I'm like, all right. So he's like, can I schedule a private class? And I'm like, sure, whatever. And we scheduled a private, and he came down, and he was a big dude. And if the problem with big guys, and this is coming from a big guy, is they're used to being generally the stronger, the better, the tougher person in any school. And it's always annoying when you get a big guy that comes in, and if they have any sort of ego, you got to deal with that because you have to protect yourself, So if you're training and you have a big partner who's always going to be a little bit meaner, a little bit more aggressive, you can't be too nice because you're jeopardizing like yourself, all right? So when it's a stranger that you don't know, you have to like take the level up a little bit more. So he comes in and he wants to train. He was a brown belt at the time, and I had no idea who he was. He seemed nice enough, but he was a brown belt. He's a big dude, so I had to take care of myself, and he wanted to roll. So we rolled, and we rolled for, 20 minutes, I think. And then he's like, oh, let's go over some techniques. And immediately he was like, hey, I need you to meet, one of my students up in Grand Rapids, and the seminar over there right away, immediately. I'm like, you should probably call your student first before you commit to like a seminar, because if I book that date, and it doesn't work out, then I could have done something else with that date.
It's your livelihood.
Yeah, so like you need to like confirm that before you book me out. So he took about 2 days, and he gave me a call. He's like, it's set up this date, this time, and I'm like, okay,
efficient,
sure. So
don't look at the time, Paul.
It's only, I understand.
Yeah, could you just call out the time for me?
I understand it's been 19 minutes and it's an eternity, but...
I know, like, he's talking all important stuff, like, really cool story, and you're like, what time is it? Okay.
So I had no idea what I was driving to. I had actually never even, like, talked to Chad at that point. So
I met him I met you when you walked into the gym that morning.
Right.
Yeah.
Nice. So
Rob just called me out of the blue and was like, well, I told you guys last time. He was like, hey, I met this guy. He pretty much mopped the floor with me. You got to bring him up to the school. So I was like,
done.
Let's do it.
Nice.
Yeah. So I drove up. I had no idea. I had never been to Grand Rapids at the time. I had been to Byron Center. I had never been this far up north. And I just got in the car, and I was like, all right, let's do this. And I got up early, drove, met Chad.
Dodged all those deer like a champion.
Yeah.
He doesn't drive like a grandma.
I did the seminar, and then Chad and I talked. We hooked up a little bit, and soon after that, he came under training under my tutelage, and we started association from there.
Very cool.
Yeah, it was like he came up for the seminar. I think I came down for a private that next weekend.
Right.
And we did a private, and then him and I just kind of started talking. After that, you were sitting at the desk, and we kind of hashed some stuff out. And
now you're besties.
Yeah.
You really hit it off.
Yeah.
When did you start dating?
You guys are quite adorable together.
A few years ago.
Yeah. And I will say that not because he's here. I actually told Clive on the way up. I've been really blessed with Chad and with the work he's done up here. He's created the environment that I have in my school. And I think that's the environment most jiu-jitsu schools should have, the friendly, the welcoming school where you're still getting great instruction and you're still getting good roles in, but everybody's trying to help each other. They're not trying to be out for themselves. There's no king of the mats and things like that. So.
Oh, yeah, besides me.
Yeah.
Who said that?
Yeah. Yeah, that's just, I like to lie occasionally just to be part of the conversation.
Oh, okay.
Kip, if you didn't know, he beats everybody. Like, nobody can handle Kip.
Oh, just 2 weeks into it.
He's going to start teaching
classes. Yeah, just 2 weeks into it. Yeah.
I would love to teach a class. It would be like, here, I'm going to show you all the shit I screw up. Can you tell me how to fix it? It's a reverse class. I mean, it works, right?
Yeah, Chad was in a bind and asked me to teach a class one time. I'm like, you've met me, right? You sure you want that?
He was so nervous, like a little bitch.
Yeah, it was too. Like a sweat. Sure, Chad. Sweat just dripping down my head. I got this.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, I agree. Having a good community, just make a good community out of it. Very welcoming. I like it. Yeah. So we've gave him all kinds of accolades for that. So I can appreciate that it comes from the top down. So
yeah,
awesome.
And he doesn't even like me, and I still say he's a good guy.
Does
Nobody
anybody like you?
No one likes me. Gosh, I keep setting him up. He knocks him out. I love it.
I'm waiting for this to be just like Paul's podcast.
Yeah,
Paul would like that too.
I don't know how to run the compuper stuff. So it's
that's really the only reason I'm here.
Get your wife and Nick, man.
At least it took 2 people to get rid of me. Though. It makes me feel a little bit better.
Jesus Christ, Nick, he can write some good stuff, huh?
Yeah.
I think that
would be pretty funny.
Yeah, I think that review was made me just about piss myself. I was laughing so hard.
Yeah.
Oh man,
that was the best pro tip we had.
How dare you, sir? Jesus.
Everyone loves Paul's pro tips.
So, speaking of pro tips, no, I don't have one right now. But if you take somebody day one and they want to be as good as they can become, but they only have 2 to 3 days a week to train, they're old, feeble, like
they're us.
Yeah, they're like us. So we have this, desire to get better. We're jiu-jitsu nerds. We just don't have an abundance of time. So like you were saying, you can take a move and work on it for months at a time and really get something nailed down. Should we do something similar just over a longer time period, or should we not concentrate on just doing one thing?
So the great benefit of the reason why you go to somebody to learn is because they've done a lot of the groundwork for you. So if I'm teaching you guys a technique, if I'm trying to show you guys something, that should have already been studied and researched and drilled, and the kinks should be worked out. I should understand the technique and the concepts behind it. Otherwise, I shouldn't be teaching it to you, because then I'm passing it a potentially incorrect technique. Now, so that's Chad's job, right? Chad's job is to essentially digest the food and provide it to you guys.
Baby bird us.
Right, correct. Yeah.
I'm all about puking up some food for you.
I can't wait.
Can I just watch it happen?
You're going to record it.
So as far as like a student, so if you're a student and you're looking to, how do I get the most out of my 2 to 3 days training a week? First, I think when you're at class, meaning you're not thinking about issues at home. You're not thinking about work. You're not zoned out. You're not just sitting there staring at somebody showing some moves or going through some techniques. You need to be engaged and you need to ask questions. That's why I welcome questions in seminars and classes. If nobody asks questions, nobody's paying attention. So I think that you need to pay attention to the class, actively engage, and it's always okay to ask the what if question, like what if this happens? And if it's something that can be easily answered now, we will do that. If it's something that needs its own class, then that should be addressed at its own class.
Okay.
And then I also think that when you're there, you need to, decide how do you want to train that day. So if you're feeling good, if it's a good day, your body feels great, you're not there's no issues right now, push it a little bit. Push yourself. Try something different. Try different techniques. Maybe be a little bit more aggressive. Work on new things, because everything should be good. Everything should be firing. And I think that if it's one of those days where you're not feeling good, you got injuries or a kink here, or something's bugging you, then maybe take the more relaxed approach, where you're still flowing through techniques, but you're not necessarily forcing or causing people to fight you too hard. And I think ultimately have fun. I mean, that might be probably the biggest thing here, is have fun, because if you're not having fun, you're not going to stick around. You're not going to enjoy it. You're not going to retain it. Think about, like, everybody can recall a moment where they had a lot of fun in jiu-jitsu or even in their lives, and you remember it really well, like really vividly, right? Why? Well, why not when you're angry? Like, very rarely do we remember things when we're angry or upset. Right?
Well, personally, I don't ever get angry.
Sure.
So, very mild-tempered person.
Chad, do you want to talk about this morning?
Good God. Yeah. I thought I was going to have to throw you guys out in the back of the building and just like have everybody start throwing dollar bills and see who's going to win.
I got money on me.
So, I don't know. I think you have to have fun, especially if you're only there 2 to 3 days a week. You should be having fun. And I think that you can have a lot of fun and still be an attentive student. You can still be an engaged student. You can still be somebody who rolls hard on certain days and somebody who rolls a little bit easier. You can still be somebody who just sits there and drills. I think as long as you're doing those things, you can get better and you can improve. It's when you decide that I'm just here. It's just something I do. It's just jiu-jitsu. I'm just going to go. It's routine.
What do you think about chasing the belt? Because I seem to see when Chad had brought up that we have a test going on, that we're going to have multiple looking to move up. I saw a change in certain people in the way they were training, and not to learn more, but they seemed to, I don't know. It just seemed like they were going a little harder, a little faster, only rolling with certain people.
Trying to earn the belt, you mean?
That's what I was saying. That's what I'm wondering. Is that a thing? Is that good? Is it bad? I don't like it. I
don't think you're gonna get the belt by rolling with all your training partners harder at the school right now. All the people that are coming up with testing right now, where they're gonna, like I see Jordan and stuff getting to the side a lot with like Rick, they're not rolling as much to me from what I've seen. They're more, hey, can we not roll this?
I think that's
rounds?
Probably what I meant. They're taking that time out.
Can we drill some of the techniques and stuff with the test requirements? So, I think the rolling part of it is anybody can roll. You know what I mean? You get. I think when it comes to rolling, your timing and everything is going to get better and all that kind of stuff. But I think you get better at like drilling the moves and then taking the moves that you've been drilling and say, okay, hey, I'm just going to work. Like today, when you showed me that De La Hiva escape when we got down on the knees and we ducked under and rolled and took it to that knee, calf slicer. I did it to 3 people today. Right. You know what I mean? And so it's like I didn't do nothing else. They kept going for the De La Hiva, and I was already down on my knees, so I just did that.
Are you trying to tell me that he showed you a move one time and you landed it on 3 people in a row today?
Yeah.
Son of a bitch. Because I went through a whole private with him, and I tried it on 3 people in a row, and I failed all 3 times. I put my hand here, my foot here. It's too late.
I mean, it might not have been the prettiest thing in the world, obviously, but it's like, to me, that's how you're going to get better. Is I'm just going to keep trying it again. I didn't get it on Paul. Oh, I'm going to try it on Kip now. I didn't get it on Kip. I'm going to try on this. Once you start hitting it, and the technique starts flowing together better, then you're just going to keep trying it on the harder and harder guys, And I think that's how you get better, honestly, at anything when it comes to jiu-jitsu. I mean, everybody wants to roll because rolling's fun.
Yeah.
Everybody's always getting down on me. Chad, you're smiling. Why are you smiling when you're rolling? I mean,
it's fun.
Because I'm having fun,
I just think it's funny. I never got down to you about it. I thought it was hilarious that
everybody gets
you're like choking me and you're like, hey!
We bag on you because that's what we do.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah, and I'm not bagging on the guys that are testing. I love all the guys that are going in. It was just they're spending more time away.
Yeah,
which is interesting when you're in class. It's like, well, now I have less training partners because these guys are training out here.
I did the
same thing. What I was trying to say, and it didn't come off that way.
I did the same thing too. I'm not sure if you guys were there. Were you guys there before I tested for my brown belt?
I was.
No, you just got your brown belt when I
I was.
said just after that.
Because, I mean, you might remember that.
I remember.
Because when it came to the rolling part of class, because I'd teach class, but when it came to the rolling part, I'd grab a partner and say, hey, can I run through these moves with you real quick just because I just want to drill? You know what I mean? So I kind of stepped away from the rolling part because that's not something I really need to focus on right now. I need to focus on these moves. I need to get these techniques down, so that's kind of what some of the guys I've noticed are doing now. Jordan's doing it. Rick's doing it. Matt's doing it. A lot of the guys are doing it because I think we only have Jordan, Matt, Rick, and Brian testing. We had a couple more, but they just don't feel like they're ready, which is fine. So it's on them. But,
it's everybody's personal journey, right, Kit?
Yeah. And at the end of the day, like
if you were sitting next to me, I'd beat the living shit out of you.
And like I said, at the end of the day, it's I'm not going to make it easier. If you guys went down and want to do it at Kroyler's and test, it's going to be hard. But since everybody's doing it here, I'm going to make it even harder.
Challenge accepted, right, Kroyler?
That's correct. Yeah.
Guess where I'm not testing? Either place.
No, it's not that I'm trying to be like meaner or anything like that. I want to hold you guys to a higher standard. That way, I know Kroyler's satisfied with how all the stuff I'm teaching you guys.
Well, and we all represent you.
Yeah, and
to
it's
be
just,
realistic.
I want, if I'm going to give some guy a blue belt at the school, I want, Kroyler to be, proud of, that guy got the blue belt. He deserves it. He's good enough to be at that rank.
Well, that sucks for me.
I'm just not going to give it away. So I'm just going to make it harder for everybody. I'm not going to give it. I'm not going to give a belt.
Kroyler, did you always have tests coming up, or is this like newer?
No, I've always had tests coming up. I've always so like growing up, I think that it's very easy to become a tough guy. Anybody can be tough, and anybody can get tougher. You go to a school where people are aggressive and hard and strong, and they're trying to beat you. You have to get tougher, or you have to leave. And tough does not mean it's not in any sense of the word equivalent to good. Okay, you can be somebody who's very tough and have very terrible jiu-jitsu. So, to me, the easiest way to check for how good your technique is to actually see a technique being performed. So we set down a curriculum. I have a curriculum for every belt, and they're not by any means the passing criteria. Those are just the minimum standards. And I think if you can perform those techniques perfectly and without any mistakes, and you can still roll at your level, at the level I expect you to be at any certain belt, then you've shown me both that you're tough and that you're good, and that you can represent that, the art the way I think it should be represented. And, for the people that want to instruct, if they develop their instruction, their the instructing ability, and they work on it and they get better, then I award them the instructor bar.
Okay. The
red bar, which is something that a lot of schools don't do anymore. I know of like 2 other associations that do that, but there's not very many of them left.
So I'm clear on it. So the stripes you give out is based on kind of how you see them roll or how they're doing in class, so that by the time they test, they can roll okay, or I'm confused on
so
that.
I have a plan. Generally, I have a plan for everybody. I have an idea of where everybody wants to be, and it depends on their goals, right? So if Kip says, hey, I want to be like a world champion, I'm like, all right, man. And I have these milestones I expect him to reach and achieve, and a certain timeline for that. And if you say, hey, I want to be an instructor, then those milestones are different, right? Because you're an instructor. You can still be effective and still be a tough guy, but the instructor has to have the ability to pass the technique on as it should be passed, not as you perform it. Because you may perform a technique slightly incorrect and buffer it with athleticism and get away with it because you're athletic or you're bigger or you're stronger or faster, and that may work for the athlete, the guy that wants to compete all the time. In a perfect world, everybody would be technically perfect. Everybody would be an athletic specimen. Everybody would be a great instructor, right? But we live in an imperfect world, and we're imperfect beings. So everybody has their own goals. Whatever goals they have, I devise a plan in my mind of where I think they should be at certain spots, and I check on them. You know, I give them goals. Sometimes, so Justin, right? Justin was one who came down and he's like, "Hey, I want to work on leg locks." He won a private on one of the raffles, and we worked on leg locks, and sure enough, Justin is getting better at his leg locks, right? And
I would say, yeah.
He's done a bunch to me.
So
So
that's pretty much the primary focus. I think it's all ever since that private.
yeah, he drops into it. That's what he drops right into
So it's like he's a leg locking guy now.
Yeah, so it's been what, like 6-8 months since I did that with him, and I expected him by this point, at his level, at his experience, and as many times as he trains, to be able to do that to most people, right? Not everybody. There's always gonna be somebody out there who beats you, but I expect him to perform at the level he's at this point, right? Now, in a year from now, I expect him to be at a completely different level.
Yeah.
And if he's not, then I have to address why that is, or Chad will have to address why that is. Like, what happened that in 6 months we're on track, but a year later we're not. And I think I do that with everybody. You know, I know certain students just want to learn. They just want to get good at this. They want to be good as they have fun. It's something that they do for exercise, to relieve stress. Plus, they learn to defend themselves. And then I have a plan for those people too.
Yeah, I think that's where we lie. I like the community. I like it's fun. It's like chess for the body and mind. I appreciate all that, but I like helping people, but I wouldn't say I'm anywhere near instructor level. But I'm not certainly not going to compete.
God, you're annoying. Chad, is he not really good at teaching what he knows?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, I think everybody, at the end of the day, like I've said before, I think everybody's got their own jiu-jitsu. You know what I mean? There's going to be stuff that, I've been taught that it just might not work for me, or it's not something I like doing, but there's certain things I'll pick. I like this technique, and I'm going to use this. I'm going to start applying that. I think everybody's got their own style of jiu-jitsu, and I think with Paul, I mean, I've noticed rolling with you and training with you for the period of time we've had, there's certain things I know you're good at. So I know with rolling with you, I'm like, all right, man, if he gets me here, this is kind of his go-to. I got to be on my game now, because, I'm kind of in a danger zone. So, like, I know you know enough of the stuff of the, like, your go-tos to where, hey, can you cover a class for me? And I don't care if you're, showing this move that, you do all the time. So what? I don't care if somebody's seen it 10 times. You show it, because maybe you got a different little different variation of it, or something, just to pass on. So it's, I think at the end of the day, like I've said before, I think you can learn something from anybody, really.
Of course.
Regardless of rank. Because you got people from different backgrounds. Just like Kroyler said with Dr. Howe, came from, Purdue, wrestler. So he had a strong wrestling background. So now Kroyler's going to take, that strong wrestling background that Dr. Howe has, and he's going to take Kroyler's jiu-jitsu background. They're going to, they're going to train and roll together. So what can he do that, Dr. Howe's going to bring into this with his strong wrestling, Kroyler's going to bring this with his jiu-jitsu, and he's going to make his jiu-jitsu is going to get better. Dr. Howe's wrestling, all that stuff's going to get better because he's learning, the techniques from jiu-jitsu, and Kroyler's learning how to, basically stuff a strong top guy, because that's what the wrestlers are about.
Right. Yeah.
You know what I mean? So you're going to get a strong wrestler on top of you, so it's just going to make his bottom game that much better. I just think you can learn something from anybody. I mean, from a no-stripe white belt on, like Ryan that comes to the gym. He's good. He's got some good techniques. He's trained before. So it's like rolling with him. Like when I told you earlier today, I was like, he's not just a regular, like a one-stripe white belt. He's good. He knows some stuff.
Yeah, he's kind of surprising, isn't he?
Yeah.
He comes in like a new guy, not so new.
Yeah, he knows some techniques, and he's tough and he's athletic. Yeah. So it's like, you can learn something from anybody, regardless. And that's why I try to keep an open mind too. It's just, there's no king of the hill at the art school, So
do you how do you develop an instructor? Is there a certain way you develop a good instructor, or is it just kind of something they're, I don't want to say born with, but?
So I think that some people have an aptitude for teaching. It does not imply that only those people should be instructors. I think the biggest quality an instructor needs to have is both passion and compassion. Right, you should have a passion for jiu-jitsu and a passion for teaching, and you should be compassionate of others and your students. I don't know. I'm sure for Chad it's the same. When I go to a competition and my students are competing, it literally wrecks me. Like, it's a problem. Like, I stress out. Like, I get fatigued at the end of the day. And
Nice.
I know that they're going to do well, but it just stresses me out because I care for their performance, and I'm sure it's the same for him.
Oh,
And it's difficult, because if you don't care, if you just go there, it's like whatever, okay, Kip went out there and lost, and I don't care. If you're that kind of guy, you should never be instructing. You don't care enough to help them get better. And I think as far as developing an instructor, if somebody has that aptitude or somebody wants to have that ability, they need to tell their instructors, like, hey, I would love to teach. And then you can start working with that person and give them little tips and little advice, so they don't hit the same pitfalls you did when you're learning. My teaching style changed drastically when I met Stembowski out in Connecticut. He's got a very different approach to teaching. It's very much like I teach now. I try to emulate him. I think his teaching style is pretty great, where he looks at students and he helps them, and he walks around and he breaks things down in a way that makes sense, and he asks you if you have an issue, and then he talks to you outside of the mats, like, hey, how are you doing? How's your wife? How's your kids? How's your friend or whatever?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Even when I went out there for Kroyler, I was out there. I flew out there Friday and came home Sunday, and that dude treated me like he's known me his whole life. Just
Nice.
That's awesome.
Awesome dude. That's why I want to get out there again. Just I don't know. I mean, not that he's getting to be a little older in age now, so he's not going to be around forever. But I mean, sheesh. I mean, if I could get out there once or twice a year, and just hang out with the dude. I mean, just being around the guy was cool.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I think part of being a good teacher too is just making everybody feel welcome and like they're cared about, because they might not get that everywhere.
And here's a funny story. It's something that this was my second year. So for years and years and years, I spent going to spend summer with him, living with him. And this was when I was a college student and I was broke and I didn't have any money. Basically had the money to fly out there, and he took me under his wing. He worked with me so I could still get better and train and all that. And I think the second summer I was there, and I had already started to change my mentality, my personality, and my approach to teaching then. And I had just gotten my purple belt at the time. I was sitting down having breakfast with him. We got up, we make breakfast. My cousin was there, and my cousin's like, check what this motherfucker did. And it was a guy who used to train Stembowski, who defected, who kind of told his students, like, hey, you should come train with me, I'm gonna open my own school.
Ooh.
And like,
that's shitty.
which Stembowski was like, whatever, man, if they gotta go, they gotta go. He didn't care. He didn't care, because he's like, if those people don't appreciate me, I don't want them anyways.
Yeah.
Right. So this was after the fact, after the guy had opened his own school. He came out with a shirt design, and I don't remember what the design was, but it was a design that my cousin Daniel Gracie had launched like 3 or 4 years before.
Uh-oh.
It was the same design. And my cousin that was there, his daughter, Stembowski's daughter, she was like, look at what this motherfucker did.
Wow.
And she's like, we got to go storm that school.
Oh.
She's like, we got to go, like, go take care of this issue right now. And she started this like war on Facebook with him. And she's like, let's just go right now. And like, right now, let's go. You and me, we'll get in the car, we'll drive out there. It's like a 2-hour drive. We'll drive out there. We'll storm the school. We'll get this taken care of right now. And
that's got to be kind of scary.
And
yeah, like
sending a bunch of Gracies at you. That just seems fucked up.
And part of me was like, yeah, let's do it. Let's go out there. Because I remember I was still coming out of that age where I felt the need to like prove it to people.
All that testosterone.
Yeah,
like 16, 19 years old.
Yeah, like I still wanted to, but I was like, what would? And Stembowski was sleeping, man. He was like sleeping. He ate breakfast and he took a nap, so he was out. And I'm like, in my mind, I'm like, what would he do? And I was like, yeah, I'll take care of this. So I went on Facebook and I said, hey man, that's nice originality. I said, I'm sure that by now this is a common design, but it'd be cool to see some props to Daniel. That's all I said.
Mm-hmm.
And then one of his guys who also left with him, used to train Stembowski, was like, hey, you need to come train with this guy. He's over here now. He's incredible. It's going to take your game to a whole new level. And I said, yo, there's nothing that guy or anybody at that school there's no level that anybody in that school or that guy can take me to that Stambowski can't take it one up higher.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I said, but, I'm glad you guys have somebody good to train with. And I left it at that. I was very cordial. It died. There was no, there was no more insults there. The guy took the picture down, and I was like, in that moment, I was like, wow, that's what I would do. And so Stambowski wakes up, and my cousin, she's like, Dad, you're not going to believe what happened. So she's like going over the whole thing with him, and how she's like, we should go over there, like right now, we should just go over there.
Still pissed.
Still pissed.
And he was like, no. He's like, relax. He's like, we beat them by being better. And that was very, very an amazing way to describe it, right? You beat them by being better, not by beating them.
Right.
You just become a better version of you so that they can't do you any harm.
Yeah.
So I don't know. And I think, I emulate him, and I try to pass things I've learned from him and things I've learned, my own pitfalls as an instructor that I've learned. I try to pass on to Chad or to Victor, Jesse, and I try to give them a little bit of advice here and there, so that they can learn. So if I have somebody who wants to be an instructor, I start that early on. Hey, can you cover open mat? And it's just open mat. There's nothing to teach. You just come in, open the school, and close the school. But here's the thing. People don't understand. It's not just opening and closing the school. If you're responsible for the open mat, if something goes sideways, like a scuffle happens,
that doesn't happen.
That never happens.
No, it's your job as the host, right, to handle it, and to handle it in a way that helps the team and the school, not a way that's negative. So, and then once they get comfortable with open mats, then you're like, okay, can you teach this class? And it's like a very fundamental class. You give them a whole plan. You say, hey, this is what I want you to teach. Go out there and do it. And you watch. And if they perform well, then you give a little bit more slack, right, in that line. And then anytime that they hit a pitfall or they're going to hit a pitfall, then you guide them. And you continue to do that until they're polished and they can teach, and they're good enough to teach on their own, to come up with their own lesson plans. Just like you would with a competitor, right? With a competitor, you're going to tell them the same things. You're going to train this way. These are the workouts I want you to do. These are the drills I want you to hit. This is how often I want you to do this. This is what I want you to eat and not eat. This is how much rest time you should get. And then as they hit pitfalls, you adjust.
Nice.
Very cool.
We talked in our private today about a game plan, and I never had when I was telling you I was reactionary to everything. Like I would let stuff happen, and
which he immediately said, "Don't do."
Yeah. So
don't do that.
Right.
Oh,
so when you're first starting, your first 6 months, say, do you try to start game planning then, or do you let them learn a bunch of stuff and then maybe later on in the blue belt, purple belt, start to develop more of a game plan?
So I don't allow for white belts to attend color belt class or advanced class at all. And in fact, I don't even allow for white on white rolling. So if you're two white belts, you don't get to roll together. Because if you're two white belts and you're rolling together, unless the white belt's been there for a while, neither party has enough experience to roll appropriately. So what it comes down to is two rhinos bashing heads, and until somebody flops over and somebody manages to get something, right? So it's different if the white belts have been a white belt for a while, 6 months, 8 months, 9 months. Then they've developed some idea of what they should be doing and not doing, and they can adjust for the lack of experience on the other side. With that said, in my white belt class, which is pretty similar to Chad's, I'm giving you tools. These are the pieces of the game. This is the board. Here's how you move them. As soon as you come to the advanced class, then I start really focusing on developing your game. So if I see you're somebody who likes to be on top versus somebody who likes to be on bottom, then we address that, right? So if you're a bottom guy, here's the things I want you to be doing. If you're the top guy, here's the things you should be doing. Don't do these things. Don't do those things. And then we chip away at the block, and eventually we come up with this huge game plan for you. And there's nothing that I don't teach my students. So there's no technique that I've learned. And there's a few techniques that I don't like doing, but I still teach them because it doesn't fit my game, my style, but it may fit yours, right? It may be the missing piece of the puzzle.
Yeah.
So I share everything. I teach everything, and sometimes I'll tell my students like, hey, this does not work for me. It's not like it doesn't go into my flow, but this will go really well for you. So let me show you, how you could add that to your game and make part of it.
That makes sense.
Very cool. I got something.
Go ahead.
I got something.
Hey,
it's about time.
About time. I'm sick of asking questions.
Yeah.
Jesus.
Well, see, do you see what happens on the show here? Is if I'm being nice, Paul never stops fucking talking, and I just sit here quiet.
I mean,
Can you give me a time check,
We're
Kroyler?
50 minutes in.
Son of a bitch!
I mean, we're 50 minutes in, and Kip has only asked 2 questions.
What's your favorite pie? No, I just know.
Yeah, how do you feel about rhubarb?
He's in pie country.
Yeah.
His school is in Amish country.
Yeah, that's true. That is true.
He better have it. Okay, I'm moving. So we had talked last episode about just a white belt.
Mm-hmm.
And I gave my opinions. I think you listened to it.
Mm-hmm.
And if not, just lie to me.
No, I did.
All right, perfect.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think about it?
So, that's tough, man. And
That's what I said.
And here's why it's tough. So, if I'm a blue belt, a purple belt, a brown belt, even a black belt, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm rolling with a white belt and the white belt. So here's something I said, and this is going to come across really mean. And I said this to a student, a white belt who was training with me at the time. And he was kind of a jerk. He was kind of an asshole, and I'm glad that he's no longer training with me. But he, I remember I was hurt. I had like a knee injury or something at the time, and I clearly told everybody, I was like, I'm not rolling. Like I'm gonna take the week off. I said I'm still teaching, but I'm just trying to rest my knee. And he comes up to me and he goes, and he's a big dude, man. He was like 300 some pounds, like a huge guy, and he's like, you want to roll?
What?
I was like,
did you not hear me?
like, no, man, not really. Like, my knee's hurt. I need to, like, let it rest, And he's like, you scared?
Oh, no.
Oh, my God.
Yes.
And
I'm scared, bro.
You should be.
See, the thing is, like, I don't buy into that anymore. Like, I don't get, like, upset about it.
Right.
In my mind, it's just funny,
Yeah,
It is. It's comical.
But you still have to go out there and roll now,
I mean, I don't have an ego. I'm fucking gonna do that.
But I mean, you still got to roll. And look, by no means was I mean to them. No, by no means did I beat the shit out of him. I rolled. I always try to roll like a little bit above whoever I'm rolling with. So I rolled a little bit above him, and we finished rolling. And he goes, "So, how close was I?" And so like
light years.
So like now I'm like,
no.
so now I'm injured. I got called out by this white belt that I don't really like. I still went out there and tried to do the nice thing, be the nice guy, and now he's still like egging me on. So I very nonchalantly said, "How long have you been training?" He's like, "Oh, like a month." I said, "Well, you're like 25 years and 11 months behind."
Nice.
And it was kind of like the douchey thing to say.
I disagree.
But-
No, I think that's appropriate.
It's appropriate.
I'm not mad at that at all.
But what I should have said is like, hey, here's the things you need to work on. That's what I should have said, right? But I didn't, and that was something that I had to step back and look and readjust on my own for my own teaching ability. However, as far as like the whole "you're just a white belt" thing. So first is we have to acknowledge that, yes, when you're a white belt, you are just a white belt.
Yes.
But that also applies to when you're a blue belt. You are just a blue belt. And a purple belt, you're still just a purple belt. A brown belt, still just a brown belt. A black belt, you're still just a black belt. And here's what I mean by that. Every level has, you have these milestones you're supposed to hit. And this level of efficiency and this level of comprehension of the art that you're supposed to have. To say you're just a white belt is implying something that is a given.
Yeah.
I shouldn't expect Paul, who's a blue belt, to be performing a technique that I just showed him today on me and be successful with it. That's unrealistic.
Do you like how he just made you feel better from the shit from earlier from Chad?
I do. I feel a little bit better.
He's so nice.
So if I say, hey, Paul, you're just a blue belt, bro, that's why you failed.
Yeah.
There is that sense of it's okay. Like, it's
Right.
okay for you to not perform at the level that you think you should, because you're still in this portion of your career.
It's kind of context and meaning is what you're saying.
Correct. But don't get me wrong. Don't get me wrong. No. Because I do agree with Kip that there's a lot of times where people say you're just a white belt. And when it comes to the white belt, because nobody says you're just a blue belt, right?
No.
But when it comes to, but they could. It's applicable.
Right.
I mean, we just went over this.
Yeah.
But when we say it to a white belt, generally, even if you're trying to be nice, in the sense of it's okay that you're struggling, it still comes down as a derogatory.
It's derogatory.
manner.
It is. Yeah. It is. It's diminutive. It's making them feel like shit. It really does. I've talked to a few guys after I had this, and I got a few messages. So
would it be better if I said, it's okay that you failed at your technique today?
No, but there's other words.
but you see, so
hold on, that was funny. There's other words. There's a big vocabulary, man.
You're not utilizing all of them.
So, anyways, I think that the whole "you're just a white belt" thing, I think that's something that needs to be addressed. I think people should be aware that even though you may not mean it in a negative manner, it may come across that way. And if we are truly to foster our training partners to become better, we should foster them to become better, not to be demeaning or mean to them or to hurt them or to use them as tools to better our training. And I think that is a good point. We should address that. I think we also need to understand that not every time is it maleficent, is it negative.
No, yeah, for sure.
And I think that we have to understand that it's who's it coming from, how is it being delivered, what is the context of the situation. Because you could say, hey, you're just a white belt, you're still learning, it's no big deal.
Oh, see, new words.
No, but see, look, it's the same message. It's the same message,
it's
right?
the exact same thing.
But it's a context in which it's delivered.
Yeah.
Now, if I go out there and I beat the shit out of you, and I'm like, you're just a white belt, that's why you suck. That's the same message, but it's much, much worse.
I've heard somebody say that before to somebody.
Yeah, it's not cool.
But yeah, no, not cool. So I just talked to other white belts because I'm a white belt. I've been there about 3 weeks now.
Yeah,
and that's pushing.
I don't remember.
Chad's thinking about taking stripes back. I don't even know if that's a thing.
I don't even know if I gave those to you. I think you just put them on your belt.
No, don't turn your back, bitch. I'll grab that tape.
Well, if you got one, clearly I deserve it.
Oh, I've been here at least 3 weeks. Stripe
for every week.
That's right.
I'm good at this. Nope. But it's even when it's said, especially when you're a white belt, for that first year it sucks. Literally, I was fortunate. I've said this multiple times because I had that guy across the table. Because he never told me I was just a white belt. He said the little kitty one that you just said. And that made me feel better about all the work I was putting in. Not that Chad ever said, Kip, you're just a white belt. He just told me I sucked, which was way more accurate. He never said that. But
Chad's like, bullshit. When did I ever say that? It's like, no, we're joking. It's
Hang
okay.
on. I don't think I did.
No, he's awesome, coach. Love him. Wish he wasn't sitting right here because I would make more fun of him.
I got Max right over there. We just talked about this.
Clive, you awake?
Oh, it's Clive.
I just said Clive.
Oh, yeah, I'm awake.
There you go.
Not paying attention. He's not engaging.
No,
you see?
you are not engaged. If you're here, pay attention. Look at Ashley looking like she cares. She doesn't. Oh, you're fun. Sorry, bud. But anyway, so when that, for instance, or that context comes up, that context is almost always going to be very sensitive context for that white belt. They're going to think, no matter, unless you're saying, hey, you're a white belt, that's why you have a white belt on, is so you're going to learn more. It's never said like that. It's always going to be, not always going to be, with certain people, it's going to be, oh, you're just a white belt. Don't worry about it. When they actually mean what I said prior.
It's also how you're feeling that day. And here's what I mean by that. Okay. Have you ever taken a picture and gone, man, that's like an incredible picture. I love this picture of myself.
Never.
Nope.
Never? No, that,
Nope.
Okay. So
all the time.
I'm sure. So I'm sure, like, there's pictures where you're like, man, this is a really good picture, or this is a terrible picture.
Right.
Yeah.
And then, like, a year or two later, you see the picture and you're like, wow, man, that was a good picture. And you might have thought it sucked back then, right? So our mood and our feelings also affect how we receive input.
Yeah.
And I think that even if somebody's being kind, even if somebody's like, hey man, look, I understand that you're struggling with this, don't get frustrated. You're a white belt, that's part of it.
Yeah.
It's going to get better. You can still go, that guy's a douchebag. He said I should be struggling with this. You see, because of how you're feeling that day.
Yeah.
So I
that
think
makes sense, yeah.
Yeah, it does.
I think that it's important that whenever we get a negative criticism towards us, that we step back before we react to it, and we think, okay, where is this coming from? Is this guy an asshole? Because he could be an asshole, right? That's fair. And if he's an asshole, then you're like, okay, that's it. He's an asshole. He's just being a douchebag. Or is this guy somebody who you know to be, a positive person, a positive force in your training, who is trying to get you better? And then you're like, okay, why would he say that, right? Mm-hmm. Is he upset with something? Does he have some issues right now that I don't know about? And if he does, could I excuse this remark? Not that it makes it better, but could I excuse it this time?
Yeah.
And if not, if it's like, no, I don't know anything, he's not telling me anything, I don't care if something's going on with him, he still hurt my feelings, still hurt who I am, right?
It sounds so weird coming out of his mouth.
And then you have to then understand, okay, this is a bad environment, right? Somebody said something that I didn't care for that affected my training. If it continues to be a trend, it needs to be addressed. Anytime a student becomes a cancer in the school, it needs to be removed. So if a student is being constantly the condescending guy, the negative attitude guy, the mentor, so to speak, of the school, it's no different than the mat bully who comes in and beats on people. Because now you can have a guy who's just beating you up and you don't want to come in because everything hurts. And you can have a guy who just shits on your training every day, and it makes it no longer fun, right? And we talked about how fun is the thing that's going to help you stick to jiu-jitsu and learn. So if it's not fun, it ruins your training. So before you quit, just like when somebody's beating the shit out of you and they're bullying you in the mats, instead of quitting, go to the instructor and say, hey man, look, this is happening, and this is a trend I don't like. If you can't deal with this, if you can't address this, if this is not something that is going to get fixed, I need to consider what am I going to do for my training, right? And I think the moment that you do that, there's not going to be a single instructor who says, yeah, fuck it, you're on your own. Like, they're always going to address, because if you're feeling that way, there's other students that are feeling that way. And that needs to be fixed, like, right away.
Awesome.
The group of the pack outweighs the group of the benefit of the individual. So
I like that. I have one thing for Chad. It's kind of in the same line. Mm-hmm. You hurt my feelings every time you go, can't get worse.
That's true.
It's totally true. It's totally true. But I'm like, every time you said it when I was starting, I'm like, oh. I look at, like, because I'm a very pessimistic, I hate myself person.
No.
I know, it's surprising.
You might need to.
Because I'm so frizzy. That was good. So understated, asshole. Right there. That was so perfect.
That was a hole-in-one right there.
That's awesome. So when I was starting, Chad would be like, I'd be like, so what can I work on? He would say a few things and then go, you can't get worse. I'm like, so here's my view is I'm horrible and I'm so bad I literally can't get worse.
All accurate. All accurate.
I know it is.
No, it's not that. I don't know. I didn't mean it like,
No, I know you didn't, Chad. You're awesome.
Because
it's like literally. That's why it's funny.
I mean, you're not going to get any worse by coming. You're not going to get any worse by walking through the doors. You know what I mean? Yep. You're only going to get better. And that's
I like the only
say.
get better thing.
It
makes me feel better about myself.
And to come off how you're saying, this stuff.
You
like,
didn't, dude. I'm totally.
No.
Me.
When you're talking about, I suck, you guys. Both of you guys seem like you got that attitude, like I suck and blah blah blah. And
what I quite clearly do. Sorry.
In my head, I don't. I mean, my wife Ash behind me, she can tell you. It's in my head. I don't see myself being that. I don't see myself being good at jiu-jitsu.
Have you rolled with yourself? Because it's really
really should try that because it sucks.
I think I grapple against myself every single day because every time I get home from the gym, I'm like, man, I didn't hit this. What made it so I couldn't get that choke on that guy? What could I do next time to where I know I got it? Or I have the mentality to where I don't think I'm that good, but it's gonna keep me walking through the door every day so I get better.
So I think that though, again, the glass is half full, right, or half empty, right? Actually, you just have a glass. So I think that the people that are hard on themselves, there's always extremes that are, anything extreme is not good. But I think when you're hard on yourself and I'm a perfectionist.
Mm-hmm.
So when you're hard on yourself and you're like, man, I didn't get this move right, or I had the opportunity to do the technique that I learned in a private today and I didn't pull it off. I think they can be both a good thing and a bad thing. You can go home and hate yourself and then eventually quit training because it becomes a thing that creates, stress to your life. Or it can be something that you use it to fuel your training. Like, I want to get better. Like, I want to hit this move. Yeah. And I will work on it. So it all depends about your attitude on the situation, I do think that people need to be more positive about their training. It's very difficult. It's very easy to be hard and negative about your performance. It's very difficult to praise it. Not to get it. Don't get me wrong. I don't want anybody to be like, "Oh, I'm the greatest guy ever." No. That's not what I'm looking for.
Mm-hmm.
I'm saying, how often have you left the gym and gone, "Man, I'm glad I came in today instead of sitting on the couch"?
Every day.
Yeah.
So why are you still saying I suck at this? Because
that shit ain't funny.
Yeah, but see, the thing is like, there's plenty of people that don't. I mean, you guys have teammates that train less than you, I'm sure, who choose to sit at home and play on their iPad instead, or to go home and drink, or to miss.
I do both.
Or to miss a tough class because it's a tough class, and I'd rather sleep in. Right? There's plenty of people like that. If you're coming in, if you walk in through those doors, I don't care if it's once a week, but it's a consistent once a week. More is better, of course, but even if it's just once a week and you've committed that once a week to your training, you should tell yourself, like, man, I am proud of this, because maybe once a week is all you got, right?
Mm-hmm.
Twice a week, 3 times a week, maybe that's all your body can take. Maybe that's all your schedule can allow. You shouldn't ever, shit on your training because of wanting to be better. Wanting to be better, the discomfort, the annoyance of I didn't do the move perfect. I could have done it better. That level of discomfort, that level of the self-critique is what's going to help you guys outgrow the shell that you're in. And if you don't have that, you're going to become stagnant. Look at all the guys that come in who are like, man, I'm the best guy in the school. How long did those guys last?
I don't know. I forgot his name. He wasn't there long enough.
Not very long.
Yeah.
Not very long. None of those guys last because they aren't capable of saying, man, I could get better.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
I'm
if you
already
attach your
the
ego
best.
to winning,
right?
all
I'm
the
already
time.
the best.
Yeah. Right.
So, I mean, that's my take on it.
What's your take on flow rolling?
Oh, I flow roll all the time. Do you think
people should do that more often? Because, and good question. So people that don't understand flow rolling, how can you explain it to them so they go, oh, okay, I get it? Because a lot of people go like, oh, we'll just go easy, right? The big lie. Or we'll just flow roll, the other big lie. And then as soon as they start getting put in a bad position, they start ramping it up harder. How do you fix that, remedy that?
You ask them to choke you.
No. So
no.
You go as hard as you can at them and you hurt them. No, I'm just kidding.
Perfect doing it.
No, so flow rolling I think is something. So when it comes to your training, it should be like a 60-40 split. You could argue the percentage, but it should be more on the flow rolling side than on the hard side. The flow roll, the idea behind flow rolling is what? Is exploring something that you normally can't explore because of the resistance, right?
Mm-hmm. So
to do that, both you and whoever you're training with that moment have to accept that the social contract there. So here's how I started flow rolling. Here's how I learned to flow roll. How and I, we would roll. We were rolling like 3 to 5 hours a week, rolling, not training, because we're training on top of that. And we would go into position. So we've been working like the Kimura example. We were working like Kimura.
Yeah.
So he knew that my Kimura attacks were getting better. So it became easier for him to just avoid letting me get the Kimura, right? In turn, I couldn't practice the stuff we had been working on. You see the issue, right?
Yep.
Right.
But then in turn, he could also not practice the defenses that he had been working on. We both lost.
Yep.
Right? So we one day, and I don't remember why or what day, he's like, hey, let's do this thing. You do one technique and I do one technique. it wasn't even called floor rolling back then because that terminology is new. He's like, you'll do one move, whatever it is, one technique, I'll let you do it, and then I'll do one.
You're sharing the taps, if you will.
No, but we weren't tapping. You see, it's a technique, it's not a roll.
Oh, okay.
So we would start the roll, right? If I pulled guard, that's my technique. Right? I pulled guard, this whatever way. And then he does a technique. So he may want to pass my guard. So he starts to pass. And so he opens my guard and he's now passing. So then it's now my turn. I do a technique. Can I recover guard? Can I sweep? Can I transition to a different guard? And then it forced him to, in whatever new position we were in, to do one technique from that position. You see? And then it forced me to do one from his reaction. And this went on, right? And it was very clunky at first because we had to learn
how far of the technique to get through before you reacted.
Right.
Okay.
And what it was the most fluid transition, because just because I have an idea of what I want to do doesn't mean it's the best move for that scenario.
I gotcha.
But quickly, like within 2 or 3 months, it was smooth. Like we were just flowing. It was actually kind of fun. We come in, we go through all these new scenarios we had never encountered, and it forced us to push ourselves outside of our comfort zone. And then because of our understanding of each other, our relationship getting deeper and deeper, we were able to ramp up the floor rolling. So if you guys ever come to my school, I roll with him every week.
We tried.
Have you guys ever come? We didn't try.
We tried.
You have to rub it in.
We totaled the car getting there.
I think you guys totaled the car avoiding coming to my school, but that's beside the point.
Your wrist lock wasn't a big deal today at all.
Oh, man.
It was cool. Anybody will say my face stayed completely normal while doing it.
I think you guys recorded the roll with Paul. I think you got him a couple times.
Yes, you did. It was quite funny.
Oh, you guys actually rolled during a private today?
No, it was during the class.
Yeah.
No, you guys rolled.
Yeah.
And then somebody stepped in my way.
Yeah,
so it was like, I want to go. I'm like, you're supposed to beat me up.
So as far as the if you guys see us rolling, it looks like we're trying to kill each other, but it's still flow rolling. See, it's just a more intensive flow roll, but we're still flowing back and forth. And there's a few times a month that he's like, hey, let's go a little bit harder today. Or I'll come in and say, hey, I need to roll hard. I want to, for whatever reason. And then when the gloves are off, and then it's no longer flow rolling. We are really fighting for every technique. And it was through flow rolling that I think that forced me to grow outside my comfort zone. When I was a blue belt, I got a close guard, and my close guard was solid, very, very solid for a blue belt. And not a lot of people could pass it, could get around it. And that's all I did because that's all I needed to do.
Yeah.
You see, I never had an issue. But through floor rolling, all of a sudden I'm in half. I'm in spider. I'm in side mount. He's in my side mount. Nobody side mounts me. What do I do? And I knew the techniques in theory because I had drilled them and practiced them, but never actually had to pull them off in a live match. So the floor rolling exposed these weaknesses, and they forced me to address them, to fix them.
Nice.
So,
that is very cool.
He says nobody side mounts him. Guess what I got on him today? That's right, side mount. So now I'm kind of feeling bad about it. You let me get there or something.
Hold on.
It's
I
almost
have it on tape. I have the shit on tape, so I watched the roll.
You can watch him put his leg down. Come on over, buddy.
I can see there was a frantic person rolling, and there was a non-frantic person rolling. Let's figure out who it
I was
was.
trying so hard to be calm, too.
I watched you literally put yourself in a worse position. I was like, you got to a good position, and then all of a sudden I'm like, where's he going? Oh, you did it.
So you remember how you told Chad that, I roll with you and I get stupid.
Yes.
I roll better than that, but
yeah.
I roll with you and I did the same thing.
Yeah. I literally, every time I roll with him, I forget everything. I'm like, Chad probably thinks I just literally, that's why he says 2 weeks. He's like, he must just be 2 weeks because that's horrible.
Well, that's probably the same way I feel when I roll with him.
Yeah.
you're being generous with Kip, man. This whole 2 weeks deal.
Yeah, I know.
He's so slick with his insults.
2 days, buddy.
I think he just did his first week free, and that's it.
That's right. He came in. He came and
coming.
watched a couple classes. He observed.
Oh my gosh. I'm so mad at you.
Do you think that'd be a good thing
That
for
hurts
white
my
belts
feeling.
to learn a little more flow, exactly what we're talking about? Because I haven't heard that before. I've heard the flow roll where you just kind of take it easy, but I haven't heard of the exchanging techniques. I think.
Well, again, to exchange techniques like that, you got to have the partner that commits to you. Okay, you can't. until you get to like I can do it to everybody now, not everybody, but everybody that I train with on a regular basis because I am more experienced and I can allow that kind of movement to happen. And they're moving, they're taking the openings I'm giving them, and I shut down when I need to shut down. But I'm forcing that exchange of technique on my terms because I allow you to get this far, and then I do this thing, and then I let you do these other things. And could two people that know less do that? So if you're two white belts, could two white belts do that? Not really.
No.
You know, they don't have the ability.
Enough in my repertoire to do that.
Unless you have a partner who's committed and you guys understand that this is what you guys are going to do. So like you guys train together all the time. It could be very easy for you guys to say, let's exchange techniques today. I'll do this, you'll do that. Like, and we'll just keep going back and forth. And nobody get greedy, nobody do two techniques. Right. You know, and we'll kind of just work that way. But you can't do that with everybody because not everybody's going to comprehend or just try to execute that social contract.
Right. I really like the idea of it, though. I'm a huge fan of it.
How about your execution of that with me?
I've never tried it with you, nor will I.
Probably not, because it won't stay that way. I'll go for my knee shield, then you'll flip out.
Right. Yeah, my technique goes first. Oh, sorry, you're tapping out all the time.
Why is your technique really long?
Nice. So do you teach a kids class too, or no?
I don't teach kids classes anymore. I used to. My dad teaches the kids classes now.
How does that go? Your dad's accent.
You know, I'll tell you what. All the time. My dad yells at them, and he says some of the most, some things that I would consider like not necessarily the best thing to say in kids classes. Like he never like cusses at them, but he'll say things like, "Oh my God, what are you doing?"
I can't imagine that accent.
That's not jiu-jitsu.
And I'll tell you what though, for as rough as he sounds, I will take my hat off to my dad when it comes to kids classes because those kids, they love him and they enjoy the class and they perform well and they compete. I don't know how it works. It's not how I would teach it when I used to teach kids classes. I took a much more playful approach, you know, like, so if I'm teaching a takedown, I'm like, hey, this is like dancing. So like, you're going to grab the wrist and you're going to step here and you're going to hug the waist and then you're going to put your foot here and then you're going to move your hip over here and then you're going to lift and throw. And it's like dancing, like it's the first time you dance, you know, and I would take the playful approach and then they would remember. I could never take that, authoritarian like view where I'm being like, oh my God, what are you doing? What is this? This is not the armbar that I showed you. Like I could never do that because this is something I picked up from my grandpa, and I never realized I picked up from him until a few years back. My grandpa used to refer to everybody as champ. Okay, it doesn't matter who you were. You just walked in the door. You've never heard of jiu-jitsu. He's like, hey champ, what's up? How can I help you? He never ever said something negative to a student that was not to help them get better. So if Kip comes up and he's like comes in drunk to school, my grandfather's like, hey Kip, how's it going, man? What are you doing, champ? And he's like, oh, I'm just coming here to train. He's like, yeah, you've been drinking. No, you should probably not be here. And or like, what are you doing? You're drunk. You shouldn't be here. He was never like, you're fucking drunk. Get the fuck out of here. Because that doesn't help anybody, right? So in every one of his classes, he never, and I do that. Like, I'll never tell you you're doing it wrong. Mm-hmm. Okay, I always say, hey, try it my way, or I do it this way, or see if this works better. And because if I say that's just wrong, what is the instant reaction? No, it's not. I learned it, and I've done it to people this way.
Oh, everybody says that.
But if I say, hey, just try it my way, it might be a little bit easier. And then you try it, and you're like, wow, he's right. It is a little bit easier. And you don't feel like you're told that you're doing something wrong. And you then take a positive view to my input instead of a contradictory input. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So, so I've always taken that approach with the kids' classes, with the adult classes. and when somebody's like, "Oh my God," like that just like irks me, you know. But it works. It works for him, and I don't know how. For me, it wouldn't work. For me, it would backfire horrendously, and it would not work.
Yeah, it probably just depends on somebody's personality. You know, if you know somebody's a certain way,
and who you are,
they own it.
Just everything depends on who you are and how it's been said by you.
You guys ever seen his dad? No. He's got a very thick accent. I gotta like look right at his face.
Concentrate really hard.
Understand what he's saying. Yeah, he's got a deep voice, and it's I don't know. He's a super nice guy.
Yeah,
super nice, like awesome. He's got I don't know, just I think his accent and his tone of voice, it's like intimidating almost in a way. But I mean, he's
works for those kids.
What must that be like?
I wouldn't know.
What, me?
Yeah.
No.
Both you are huge with deep voices and you're imposing, and then we got these two little tiny fellas over here.
The best thing today was during the private, like Kroyler showing me, he's like, all right, do it on Paul. And I turn, and I realized just how tiny we are. I look over like, holy shit, are you a person? It's like, oh. And I turn back, I'm like, or is he not a person? So confused.
Possible giant.
So, you know, the funny thing about the gorilla, you know, like when I was coming up with the logo, I actually asked my students, like, hey, what should we do as far as the logo? So everybody's like throwing out ideas, and it was always centered around like a monkey or an ape. So Phalanx, you know, my sponsors, they were helping me design it. And so I said, hey, man, these are the things people were saying. And they came back with this very cartoonish drawing of the gorilla. And my wife, who is a incredible artist, she's like, that's not gonna work. So she like pencil drew the current logo.
Oh, that
I love the logo.
Yeah, so she pencil drew that, and then she pencil drew that based off of a picture she had of me sitting, and based off of a picture off of National Geographic. And she just kind of.
So you're the monkey, and then the gi was from the monkey?
That's correct, yeah.
Okay, good.
Yeah. And so she draws it. She hand draws it, and it's like, you know, she just drew it like on a regular piece of paper. So we took a picture, we sent it to the Phalanx guys, and then they digitized it.
Nice.
They put the highlights and all that in
okay.
it.
That's awesome.
Cool.
But, you know, to do like a try run, like I put on Facebook, I'm like, yo, what do you guys think about this logo? And it's funny because everyone's like, oh my God, it's awesome. And every Gracie comment on that logo is like, looks like you, man. Every single one.
I suppose that's the point. But
damn.
Yeah. I'm not sure if that's hurtful.
I don't know if you blame your wife for that or the monkey.
I wasn't sure how I should take that. I was like, thanks.
I guess. Right?
This like, I was more looking like, how does the design look? Not like, does it look like me? It's not what I was asking.
Does this resemble me? This like huge gorilla.
Yeah.
Does it? Yeah. That's freaking hilarious.
We try to do that with ours. You know, we like the monkeys too, so we try to find the most emaciated monkey possible. Like just a little rhesus monkey.
Just take an unadulterated picture of Kip.
There you go.
Put it up there.
Yeah. Take a selfie.
That way you wouldn't
quick.
have to make it into a monkey. It's just
I'm just ugly. I'm ugly. I don't look like a monkey. I'm just ugly. Kroyler needs to leave now. Keeps hurting my feelings.
Podcast over.
So is this podcast done yet? How much time we got there, Kroyler?
We have an hour and 23.
Oh, wow.
All right, Kroyler.
It feels like 18 hours since I sat down, but whatever.
Let's move on with it.
Yeah.
This is going to get good. This is how boring.
Did your wife buy you those slippers?
Yes.
I can't keep my eyes on those things.
And my question is, Kip, you know, I know
these are wonderful.
I meant to ask you earlier when I walked in. So this is Paul's house. I met Paul and I met his wife, and you know, his children are playing, and everything's nice and lovely. We have Kip in here, and then the most interesting thing about Kip is his slippers, because they're house slippers, but this is not his house.
So interesting. Interesting you bring that up.
Yeah.
Kip?
What?
Kip?
What? It's normal.
Yeah.
Totally normal.
Like, I'm bringing slippers over to your house. I really thought he was kidding.
Oh, God,
And the
no.
next time he showed up, he's got these god-awful, ugly slippers. I'm
I
like,
love my slippers.
you were fucking joking.
At
They're
least
flannel.
At least they're not your slippers.
Did you get those from Toys R Us?
No.
Like kids. What size feet do you have? Like
I do have kid-size feet.
like a child size 6?
It's a youth size 6, thank you.
Good gravy.
Yes, I
I think my
have.
9-year-old's got bigger feet than you do.
She might.
And she's tiny, so that's saying something.
Yeah, I was going to say, she's not even big. Yeah, that's the bad part. So my daughter's catching up to me. Addie's feet are getting towards my size.
Yeah, you guys. Those are probably hers.
They could be.
Is that embarrassing to you or embarrassing to her?
Oh, it's definitely me.
Yeah, I figured as much.
But I don't embarrass very easily.
I just wanted you to admit that, on tape. That's all.
Hey, Kroyler, you know who edits? Me.
Oh.
All the shit comes out how I want it to.
Where are we on Nick and Nicole?
Damn it! So Kroyler comes on and immediately tries to replace me, and then buttons up the show with trying to do it again.
Yeah, Nick is gonna love this show, though. I tell you what.
Nick,
like,
you're
I'm
famous.
in. I'm doing it.
No,
yeah. He was a wrestler.
I'm gonna take my ball and go home.
He was a wrestler. He can get down with this.
Oh, so he goes too hard and throws himself into triangles?
Yes.
Got it.
Best customers.
Yeah, exactly.
They keep returning. That's for dang sure. Well, we should let him go. He's got fur babies and his wife's not feeling well.
Well, is there anything you want to bring up that we didn't ask that you want to cover before we let you go?
I listen to your guys' show usually as soon as it comes out. I'm at work usually, so I just download it and listen to it. You guys do a really good job as far as keeping it entertaining. You guys do a really good job of keeping some topics that a lot of people oversee, keeping it alive, like the whole "you're just a white belt" comment, or the idea of the prehab versus rehab. Nobody talks about that. Everybody's like, "Oh, I got surgery on this." Sure, like
awesome.
that's your resort to everything, I think you guys should keep doing a good job. But other than praising you guys, the one thing I wanted to discuss is the idea of jiu-jitsu will be to you what you make of it. So if you are somebody who is doing it for self-defense, that's all it's ever going to be for you. If you're somebody who's doing it to be a competitor, that's all it's ever going to be for you, right? If you're doing it for fun, that's all it's ever going to be. However, jiu-jitsu is much, much deeper than that. And I think that the moment that you commit not just to your own goals, but to your training partners, to your instructor's goals, to the school's goals, you realize that jiu-jitsu is a multi-layered beast, and there's so much more to it. All of my greatest friends have come from jiu-jitsu, and it's because me and them and my friends, there's such a deep bond, because I know those people are going to put in the time with me. They're going to help me improve, even if it's inconvenient to them. There's a very deep level of trust. I know that if Chad gets a submission on me, he's not going to hurt me. I know that he's going to let go when I tap. I know that if I grab, Chad on the choke, I know that he doesn't have to worry about me like cranking his neck, because I'm not going to do that. So it develops this very deep bond. And I think that the more you put into developing that bond, into making it more than just about you and your own personal goals, jiu-jitsu will give you that back. So I think that the more you put into it, the more you give to the art and to your school and to your teammates, the more the art and the school and your teammates will give it back to you. And I think that's often implied but not discussed. So
very cool.
Fair enough.
Oh, yeah.
Fair enough. Nice reaction.
I mean,
asshole.
That's all right.
Just beautiful diatribe, and this dude comes with.
I was immediately going to talk about our sponsors, like right there, like just make it like it never happened.
No. just go over the top. This is where Paul was an asshole.
So that was okay. Speaking of tap tape. So tell everybody where your school's located.
So I'm in northern Indiana. I'm in Elkhart, Indiana. We're about 2 hours, an hour and a half, 2 hours south of Grand Rapids. It's easy to drive. Phalanx is they're my sponsor.
Website?
Kroyler Gracie Jiu-Jitsu.
Nice.
So it's pretty simple. It's like KroylerGracie.com. It's pretty simple. If you just search Kroyler Gracie Jiu-Jitsu on any
it's not hard to find him.
It'll pop up. In fact, I'm the only Kroyler on anything. So if you Google Kroyler on any search engine, or if you search Kroyler in any search engine, you'll find me.
Nice.
It's not hard. So. But if you ask him for a really good picture of him while you're working on something, he's going to give you a really good answer back. I'm just equating this because I searched for a picture online. I'm like, none of these are what I wanted. I asked him for a picture. Last night he came back with I'm an ugly motherfucker, and then sent me some and said, good luck. So
Just use this monkey. It looks just like him.
Yeah. Just send the logo. That's it.
that's the logo.
Right, this is
Kroyler
Kroyler.
Gracie. His whole family thinks he looks like this. But I love all the times Chad goes, oh, God.
He's just
Oh, man.
rolling his eyes.
Yeah, I'm your student.
Joke's on you, Chad. No.
Make some
Well,
changes.
what are you doing, man?
I don't know.
Look at the culture you're breeding.
Slowly losing it.
But I want to thank both of you guys for coming on. Most
No problem.
importantly,
Yeah.
Ashley.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks, Ashley. Thanks.
Clive, you want to correct my name again? I said it right, too. Yeah. All right, wait.
So,
way to go.
You know, as far as Clive goes, not to like pick on him because he's here, but you know, we're talking about the whole committing to your training and making it more than what it is. Like, he's a guy who he just closed shop in Philly and moved here to train.
Oh, wow.
So
That's impressive. That's very impressive.
yeah.
Other than that, he's living with Claude. I can't imagine. I
You
can't.
live with
man.
Claude?
I can't.
Good luck with
imagine
that.
what
Yeah, that's
Good grief.
That's bravery. All I
Well-
know him is by pictures, and I think I shook his hand once.
yeah, and I think like the
probably
two,
about nothing but swing dance music and like wine all day in the house.
and like the two of them together, and then it's like oil and fire. At some point, it's gonna blow. But you don't know when.
Oh boy.
Every day, all the time.
Yeah.
Nice. Did you want to mention our sponsor before we go?
No,
Real quick.
I got it canned.
Oh, got a can? Sweet. Cool.
Yes.
Well, cool. Well, thank you both
Yeah.
for coming on.
Thanks for having me.
I
No problem.
really, I'm grateful. I appreciate it. Thank you for doing what you do again. So,
Lastly,
Absolutely.
thanks for putting up with me.
Oh yeah.
yeah.
That's fucking awesome.
You're definitely welcome.
Yeah.
Cool.
Look, he's tired.
See what
I
you
made
did
him.
there.
I made him mentally tired. So, all right,
This is a good
everybody.
time.
Thanks a lot again.
Peace.
See ya.
Bye.